Alright, what is going on guys? It's Tazz here, and welcome back to the channel. Now today what I've got for you guys is my season overview as well as finale review for Season 5 of Arrow. Now spoiler warning if you guys haven't seen the finale for this season, but if you have, let's continue. Now coming off of a not so favorable 4th season of the show, Arrow Season 5 started off right where Arrow needed to start off the season, right with a whole bunch of action, and basically I guess you could say right back to the basics and the roots of the show. And this season found us starting off with Oliver going basically on his own, only with some help of Felicity back in the Arrow base, but he was basically on his own there at the beginning of this season, and he was kind of questioning what he was doing and if it was really making a difference, to the point that he would actually kill a whole bunch of people, drop a whole bunch of bodies in the first episode, which was definitely very reminiscent of Season 1 Oliver, but he definitely did change going on with the rest of the season. And towards the end of that first episode, we got our first glimpse at the big bad for the season, Prometheus, and he was just absolutely amazing from his first little scene that he had there, and it was just absolutely awesome to see a villain like this again. And he was just he had all of the mystery and sort of very similar. I could say he's pretty similar to like kind of a cross between like Deathstroke and Malcolm Merlin, the Dark Archer from Season 1. He was very kind of mysterious, and he also had a mask, so you knew that was going to be a big mystery as to his identity throughout the rest of the season, and I just absolutely loved his first introduction to the show at the end of the first episode. And for a while there, Prometheus was just operating in the shadows without really anybody noticing what he was doing or really that he even existed. And here at the beginning, he basically just used Tobias Church as sort of the head for everything that he was doing, sort of making Team Arrow and Oliver sort of think, oh yeah, Tobias Church, he's the big threat right now, but really it was Prometheus operating from behind the scenes. Even though Oliver wanted to combat this threat on his own, it was Felicity that basically told him that he needed a team to go forward with this. Even though Diggle was in jail, Laurel had died last season, and Team Arrow had basically just been pretty much disbanded at the end of Season 4. She reminded him that he needed a team to go forward and to help him out in the field, and while I kind of agree with this, I mean, if Oliver was still like he was in Season 1, there's no need for him to need a team really to take down anything. But nevertheless, Oliver did end up recruiting a new team of vigilantes to help him in his fight to save his city. And one thing that I liked this season a lot was sort of the balance that Oliver had to keep between his nightlife as the Green Arrow as well as his day job of being the mayor of Star City. And now I thought that this was just a very, very cool thing to add to the show, sort of show Oliver's secret identity, have him actually do something during the day to sort of try to save the city on both ends, I guess you could say. And this was sort of straight out of the comic books. The Green Arrow has been the mayor of Star City in the comics, and I just really loved seeing this play out on screen on the show, and I really think that Oliver being mayor is probably one of the coolest things that they sort of added this season. And through his new job of being the mayor of Star City, we were introduced to a new character this season, Adrian Chase, the district attorney. And now, right when we were introduced to him, everybody thought, oh yeah, he's got to be Vigilante, because Vigilante had also showed up and he showed up in the background a little bit. I think he showed up like on a computer monitor or something, like a little sketch of him showed up there. So everybody was like, oh yeah, Adrian Chase must be Vigilante. That's who he is in the comics. But little did we know, he would end up being Prometheus later on down the line. And while at first I was a little bit upset about this when they first revealed Adrian Chase to be Prometheus, but I really came to terms with it, and I thought it was really cool how they did it. And I mean, they had basically given you so many hints as to, oh yeah, he's gotta be Vigilante. Like, he had always kind of disappeared. You never saw him and Vigilante in the same place at the same time, obviously. Vigilante's voice when Team Arrow was going up against him kind of sounded like Adrian Chase just trying to do his best Batman impression, and I thought that was just very cool that even the actor himself in interviews had even kind of hinted that, oh yeah, he might be Vigilante, but I thought that was a very cool misdirect by the directors and sort of everybody involved on the show, making everybody think that Adrian Chase is Vigilante when he is really the big bad of the season, Prometheus. And speaking of Vigilante, we still do not know the identity to Vigilante ever since that episode that we actually got the reveal of Prometheus's identity, and now there are a lot of different theories on Vigilante floating around. I know on the channel here I've have said that maybe I think that it could be Paul, Curtis's husband, or former husband, or ex-husband, I guess I could say. Or there have also been some theories going around that it could be like the twin brother of Adrian Chase, and so that's the same. That's a way that they could maybe get the actor back on the show, which I think would actually be really, really cool, is if they could bring the actor back that played Prometheus to still play Vigilante as maybe like his twin brother, because there have been two different versions of Vigilante in the comics, Adrian Chase as well as his brother Dorian Chase, so the possibility, but I may go into this in another video, or I may not. I'm not completely sure, but the mystery of Vigilante will hopefully and most likely be revealed here in Season 6. Later on down the line in the season, we got a betrayal by a member of Team Arrow, Evelyn Sharp. She ended up betraying the team and going to work with Prometheus, and it was kind of surprising when it happened, but I don't think anybody really missed her on the team. She didn't really have much development, and I guess really her switching sides was probably the most character development she got all season. And speaking of joining forces with Prometheus, we also got the return of Laurel Lance, but not in the way anybody would really expect. We got Black Siren on the show, which is the Earth 2 version of Laurel, and she ended up actually working with Prometheus as well, because he was able to get her out of the pipeline from Star Labs, as well as help her escape Argus near the finale. Even though we don't have a version of Laurel as the Black Canary on Team Arrow, we still did get a new Black Canary this season in the form of Dinah Drake. Now, Dinah Drake is a nice little reference to the first version of Black Canary from the comics, which I thought was definitely a nice little reference there. And she also has a metahuman canary cry, which is definitely very nice and a cool addition to Team Arrow, and she could technically, I guess it could be seen as overpowered, given she's really the only metahuman on Team Arrow, but I just think that she's a very cool addition to Team Arrow. And speaking of new members to Team Arrow, I think probably my favorite new member that Team Arrow got this season was in the form of Wild Dog. Now, I think Wild Dog is really cool. He's a nice little addition to the team. I think he's pretty funny, and I just think I really like his character on the show, and I think that he's probably my favorite new member of Team Arrow. But we did get some returning characters actually join Team Arrow, and the character I'm referring to is Curtis, aka Mr. Terrific. Now, I think that he was just a very cool addition to the team. While he's not so great in sort of hand-to-hand combat fighting or anything, he definitely adds a nice sort of brains and smart value to the team. Obviously, him developing his T-spheres definitely got the team out of a lot of sticky situations, and I just love the T-spheres. They're really cool, right out of the comic books from Mr. Terrific, and the T-sphere is just absolutely awesome this season. But enough talking about the characters and the overview for this season. Let's transition into talking about this season's finale. Now, throughout the entirety of this season, Adrian Chase had been a very psychological and very personal villain for Oliver this season. Rather than just a crazy dude trying to nuke the world like Damien Dark was, Adrian Chase was really a very personal villain for Oliver, very similar into the way that Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke, was for Season 2. And now, given that very personal connection that the two had, it was very fitting to see their final battle end where it all began for Oliver, which was on the island Lian. Now, I really liked how in the finale, all of the flashbacks paralleled very nicely to everything happening in present day. And even though this was the end of the flashbacks, it's very nice to see the flashbacks end up right where we started off and right where we picked up in Season 1. A very fitting end to the flashbacks this season. And now, in addition to the end of the flashbacks and really the end of a chapter for Arrow, we got the return of a lot of fan favorite characters in this episode. Now, in the previous episode, we obviously saw Malcolm Merlyn seek out Oliver to see if he could help him out, because obviously he wanted to save Thea from Prometheus and everything, but he ended up helping out Oliver as well. And then also at the end of the episode before the finale, we also saw Oliver recruit Nyssa to help him fight Prometheus and obviously Nyssa's sister, Talia. And then when we got to the island, we got the long-awaited return of a fan favorite character and probably everybody's favorite villain other than Prometheus. We got the return of Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke. And now when Oliver went to go find Slade, he was a lot different than we found him, or well, than we left him, I guess you could say, back in Season 3 when he was still crazy and suffering from the effects of the Mirakuru. But now he's got it all out of his system, he's good, his mind's all there, he's fine, he's got everything in check now, and he's not as crazy, obviously, as he was back in Season 2 or in Season 3, is not filled with that hate and vengeance that he had back in Season 2 and Season 3, but it's nice to see him back on the show sort of more like he was in the flashbacks from Season 1. And now, if we ever get the return of Deathstroke, I think that we know sort of the storyline that they're going to go with is obviously Oliver had given Slade that sort of, I guess it was like a flash drive, I guess he gave him, talking about the location of his son. So it was kind of like, you help me find my son, I can help you find your son. So there's a possibility we might see the return of Slade later on, maybe in Season 6 or in a future season of Arrow, but that's definitely pretty nice to see them set up a future storyline for Slade Wilson if they end up bringing him back. And while it was definitely nice to see Slade basically act as a good guy this time, we got also the return of Captain Boomerang, who was not so much of a good guy. Obviously, he's not a good guy, and I think everybody saw it coming that he was going to betray Oliver and go work with Prometheus. But later on in the episode, Captain Boomerang might have gotten what he deserved by possibly being blown up by a landmine, because when we saw Thea step on that landmine and then Malcolm push her out of the way and to take her place and to sort of show Thea that he can be the father that she wants him to be, or that he really should be. And now I think that this was definitely a very sad goodbye for Malcolm Merlyn if he's gone, but I mean, Malcolm Merlyn, he's called the Magician for a reason. I think that there's definitely a way for him to have gotten out of that situation. If you don't see a body, I don't think he's dead. And later on in the episode, we got the matchups that we were all waiting for. We got the Nyssa versus Talia fight, which was absolutely awesome. I've just sort of been waiting all season to see this. I sort of had the feeling that Nyssa was going to come back here at the end to fight her sister, and it was definitely a very well-deserved fight there at the end for them. And then we also got to see the fight between Black Siren and the new Black Canary, Dinah Drake, and this was absolutely awesome. I really loved when their canary cries sort of clashed there, and I like how they had sort of two different pitches and two different sounds to their canary cries, and I just thought that that was pretty awesome as well. And then we also got the sort of second to last nice little clash between Oliver and Adrian Chase for the season. Unfortunately, Adrian wasn't wearing his Prometheus suit, but I guess that was just to show you that Prometheus wasn't the villain for the season. It was Adrian Chase, the man under the mask. And now, no matter what Adrian had said to Oliver, there was no way that Oliver was going to kill him, because that's what he wanted, and there's no way that Oliver was going to give him the satisfaction of killing him. And it's a good thing that Oliver ended up sort of saying that, no, I'm not killing people anymore, because when he got sort of the, not really call, but I guess sort of update from Felicity saying that there's bombs, C4, set all over the island, so that if they killed Adrian Chase, then the entire island would just blow up, which is just absolutely insane. I don't know how Adrian had all that time to put a whole bunch of C4 around the island. Maybe he had some help from an evil speedster. Who knows, but yeah, that's pretty crazy. And like Adrian had told Oliver in the most recent episode, or in the previous episode I should say, is that he would see him on the boat. And what boat might that be? It's just a little speedboat on the island of Lian-Yu that Adrian was taking to get off the island, and Oliver hopped on the boat, sort of Assassin's Creed style, jumped down and started fighting him there on the boat in their final confrontation. And in a final effort to get Oliver to kill him, Adrian pulled his son from a room on the boat and sort of used him as a hostage to say, hey, if you kill me, you can save your son, but everybody on the island dies. But if you don't kill me, then I kill your son, which was just absolutely crazy. And Oliver, now being the new person that he is, found a third option. So he shot Adrian in the foot and he got his son back. Now, even though Oliver thought that he had won, he got his son back, he saved everybody on the island, or so he thought. Adrian did his last thing that he could ever think of, and he pulled out a gun and he shot himself in the head, which was just absolutely insane. Now, I thought that this was definitely pretty crazy just because I didn't really want Prometheus to die in this final episode. I kind of wanted to see him come back at some point later on, but I definitely think this was a fitting end to the crazy character that was Adrian Chase. Now, in the final shot of Season 5, we had Oliver hugging his son because he had just saved him, but then both seeing the destruction as Lian-Yu exploded from all of the C4 on the island, leaving it up in the air as to who survived that explosion. And I'm gonna make a separate video as to who I think survived the explosion of Lian-Yu, but let me just say one thing: the Argus bunker. Now, overall, I thought that this was just an amazing end to an amazing season of Arrow. This was definitely a great comeback from Season 4. Now, Season 5 was just absolutely awesome. Definitely my favorite season of all the CW shows this season. Definitely my favorite finale of all the CW shows this year. Now, I thought that this season and finale were just absolutely awesome, but I want to know your guys' thoughts on this down in the comments below. Did you like the season finale for Arrow Season 5, or did you even like the season overall? I want to know your thoughts down in the comments below. But until next time, guys, it's been Tazz, and I will see you guys in the next video.